Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
All right, I'd like to welcome you to this edition of In the Conference Room with Mark S. Lee. Of course, I'm your host, Mark, and I want you to sit back and relax and enjoy the conversation as we do this each and every single week. We have the top business leaders from not just across Detroit, but from across the country as well, provide you with the latest information that's taking place across the Motor City and beyond. So I want you to sit back and relax, have that nice hot cup of coffee, as I always like to say. I've been saying it for a long time over the airwaves. All right, today is no exception. I'm so pleased. This is a major event that's coming to the Motor City in its 10th year. And I'm so pleased to welcome you to the conference room. We're going to unpack this conversation in historical context and talk about what's going to be happening with Dr. Lisa Wicker and with Lisa Wicker and Associates. And she's a Detroit native. She has offices here in Detroit and also in North Carolina. But I'm going to let her introduce herself. Dr. Lisa Wicker, thanks for joining me in the conference room. It's always good to see you. How you doing?
Yes. How are you, Mark S. Lee? I'm great.
I am doing great. You know what? This is exciting times for you. We were just chatting about a major event that you have, the 10 years career mastered. We're going to unpack that. But before we do that, tell us briefly, because you have a phenomenal career, a career mastered. Talk about the organization. Where did that name come from?
Wow. So yeah, my career started at the automotive plant in Saginaw, Michigan, from an intern with General Motors. And I walked through the 75 Expressway corridor to Detroit to the world headquarters of General Motors. Became an executive there and left there and became the chief HR officer for getting the casino business in the city of Detroit with MGM Grand. And that was kind of the Renaissance period there. So we did a lot of work around ensuring that came to the market. Left there, started my own business, Wicker Associates Consultancy, which is the company that I have today. In between that, I did a stint at Chrysler and went on to become the international head of HR for Lowe's Home Improvement, and tried to retire again. That didn't quite work. So here I am today as a consultant in the marketplace, where I oftentimes become the CHRO for companies, clients that are international, from India to Abu Dhabi to Spain and Luxembourg. We do a lot with the United States as well. So I'm an HR professional. And the career master part of that was a concept that was born in 2014. I recognized that I really had done pretty decent as a girl from originally Mississippi, and spent the majority of my life, however, in the Michigan area of Detroit and Saginaw. And then finally decided that I wanted to give back because my mom actually passed away in 2015. And from that, we have been honoring women across the nation for now, since the 2014 concept to now. We have honored over 450 women from around the nation across 25 disciplines to show that women are doing a compelling mark in business. And to what is the history of that? How do they give to the American heritage? What have they done? And they've done a lot. Even through the COVID, and since post-COVID COVID and the pandemic, we have continued to do what we do in terms of recognition. We also provide scholarships to girls, and so Career Mastered is the women that have demonstrated their abilities to get it done in the marketplace. But that's been a catalyst for Excel Village, which is a nonprofit that we run that provides STEM education and finance, arts, and business education to girls in grades 5th through 12th. And since that time, we've given over $60,000 in scholarships each year. During the conference, we give at least $1,500 to $3,000 to girls. And so that really was named after my mom, and that's what the scholarship is. But this is my purpose walk. Since, the career with corporate America, I think reflectively, it's I would consider it a grateful but humbling space to be in, like you,
Yes,
that we get to actually see the results of all the
absolutely.
hard work that was done, to get to that space, that C-suite or wherever we were trying to get to. Now we get to see where we help navigate and help other women and men, do the same thing. But this is a purpose walk rather than a monetary walk.
And what's interesting is you have a magazine, Career Mastered. And so,
Yes.
for those of you tuning in, so essentially you mastered your career, as the play on words, career mastered. And I love what you're saying as we begin to unpack the conversation. Like you, I was fortunate, it's not about me, it's about you. But I was truly blessed to work in corporate for over 25, 30 years, whatever it was. And I was certainly the highest ranking African American in certain levels of these major corporations. And like you, for where I was sitting, it provided me an opportunity to see where I could give back. And I think that's the beauty of what you're doing with Career Mastered and the annual event that you kicked off in 2014. So let's talk about that before we bounce into 2024. So you
Yeah.
came up with the idea and you kicked it off in 2014
Yeah.
and take it from there.
So we started the background work in 2014, the branding, as you see, which has been consistent for 10 years, the pink, the black, the gold, the colors that you see. We started all the branding and then set up to have the first actual recognition award in 2015, where actually the legendary Florine Mark was our living legend. And,
Yes, I remember that.
she has since passed away, but each year since that time, she has been a co-host with me. And we're going to miss her presence this year, but she will be there in spirit. We're going to have a recognition around the things that she did to support women and show us women how to get it done, right? And so since that time, we've had a recognition program. We've had a summit that we provide what we call the executive leadership programs, where women can come in and hear and sit at the footstep of women that are and have shown and demonstrated the mastery of their careers. I think we all consider that we are evolving. There's not like a finish point. I'm currently still evolving, even after having retired several times. I mean, the becoming is like Michelle Obama used to say, we're becoming each and every day more and more of what the real deal path is supposed to be, what was divinely ordered for us. And that's what I'm walking right now. I'm elated over the opportunity that I've been given to do this work. And again, the work for me, Mark, is really, really not about me. This is about how
Right.
do we support others. So the walk that you are asking me about is we started in Detroit. We went from a local concept to a global concept and then to a national concept. So while our concept is really national in terms of the execution of the summit, our magazine takes us with the footprint to global markets, right? And so we decided in 2018, I had tried my best to get media to pick up what I was doing so we could tell the stories of the women. And of course, you know how that is. You work in media, they have to go with the real stories when they want and what's happening then. And
Right.
so I worked in PR at one point for General Motors. I'm like, why am I asking? I teach women how to shatter limits. So we go around, go over, go under. So I started my own magazine. Now I have people calling me to be in my magazine, right?
Awesome. Awesome.
And
That's awesome.
so when there's a will, there's a way. So we've launched the magazine Career Mastered so we'd have medium or to tell the stories. And we could say, everybody won't be Oprah, even though I'm proud of what she's done. And we know that it's a great thing, the modeling she's done, but there are extraordinary women in workplaces every day that their stories don't get told. So Career Master tells the story quarterly and in print of at least 70 pages per quarter. And so the ideation around that was, okay, we start off with Women's History Month because the concept was around the history of women. So we connected to the National Women's History Project out of DC so that our themes would align. And so for 44 years, the United States has been recognizing officially women and the history that they have made. And so we align to that each year. This year, we decided not to do it in March because we were coming home to Detroit. So we started in Detroit. And then we went from Detroit to New York, from New York to Charlotte, from Charlotte to Atlanta, from Atlanta to Hilton Head. We've been to different places every year to execute and activate this event. But we are kind of the glutton for punishment, because in some years we did it in 3 places in one year.
Yeah.
So when we first started, we were at Detroit, Charlotte, and New York. And we did that for 3 years. And then finally I said, let's just go national. And so
That's
now
awesome.
we have women coming to us from around the nation. We don't have to go to those cities. We can decide where we want to have and launch the event and what city in what year, right? So we decided for the 10th year, we're coming home. We're coming back home to the Motor City of Detroit. And as you say,
Detroit.
we call it Detroit, and people outside of Detroit, but the deal is it's the Motor City. And I will tell you, having lived in other places, there's nothing like the Motor City, the concrete, the cars, the diversity of what Detroit offers, the fact that the city has grown into this mecca. We're having our event in this space that you see behind me, which is the building called Elevate on the 16th floor. It's Rocket Company's building where the sugar factory sits. So we will be in this building for the event on May the 16th. We're actually implementing a 2-day summit starting on May the 15th at Elevate. I love this building. And we have actually sold out, which is typical. Every year our events have sold out. I often tell people, if you wait, you won't have a seat. And so that's a good
problem.
That's a good bad thing. And it happened again this year. I wished I could open the door for everybody, but we're at capacity in this building as to where we want to be. And we start on May the 15th, which is a Wednesday, from 8 o'clock until 8:30 at night. So we go from 8 to 5 with our executive leadership sessions, of which you will moderate. Mark is going to moderate the Men as Allies discussion to ask and talk to men about the support for women and helping women advance their leadership and their spaces in rooms that they are supposed to be in. And then after that, we will have the awards luncheon at 12, where we're recognizing over 60 women from around the nation. The hotel's filled. Okay. Our host hotel is the Book Westin Cadillac. So we don't have any more rooms over there that we can have.
Absolutely.
And that means the women flew in and they came to the city.
Well, let me just say this. You and I were chatting before we had this conversation today. Detroit is hot. It's almost as I like to say, and I'm biased. Like you, I'm a native, and I've lived in 9 different cities across the country. I live in New York, Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, Wichita, Kansas, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Jacksonville, Florida, some other cities. And my point is saying that in all great towns, right? And obviously coming off the NFL draft, the record numbers that we saw people coming to the city, there's been this afterglow about the city that you and I, as Detroiters, haven't always experienced. And I think that what you're seeing too, is that there's a renewed interest in the Motor City, and people are gravitating to come here and experience the good things it has to offer. And you coming back home, so to speak, you're leveraging and giving people a chance to see what the city is becoming.
Yeah. I get a chill thinking about, I have women that follow me in Charlotte. You have a whole complement of women coming from Charlotte. You have a complement of women coming from Atlanta. We had it in Atlanta last year. So they got their fix and they're coming with us, right? We have women that are coming from New York. We have a good following of women, 150,000 on Instagram. So we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good.
Pretty good.
And
let me ask you. Well, let me ask you. And we have a few minutes remaining. I'm going to get to a couple of things. One is 10 years, and let's go back. Talk about the evolution. What were the challenges when you first came up with the program 10 years ago? What were you really focused on? And let's look at today. So 10 years later, 2024. Obviously, the theme this year is "I Am Resilient." Is the theme for this year's event. So talk about what was happening 10 years ago in terms of women issues and challenges, and where are we today?
Well, I'll tell you, when I started, I didn't have the momentum that I have today. Okay. I had to get the winds of change to get with me. Right. So I did not have a problem with anyone kind of questioning who I am, because I had a pretty good career in Detroit. what I was challenged with was finding the right support and sponsorship. So I had to be resilient about continuing to knock on doors to tell the story about why I needed support, that this concept called Career Master was a heavy lift for me alone, that it really was not about, the monetary value for me, but we were really talking about starting with women in Detroit. Who are they? Where are they? What do they do? And so because I couldn't get the sponsorship, I personally paid for it myself. So I decided that it was worth it to me to invest in what I was being called to do. This is my calling. I don't have to happen to be in the church pulpit. This is my calling right here. And the work that I needed to do was going to take some finances. And so when I started deciding, okay, I'm going to be at my first event was at the Weston Book Cadillac. Well, hotel bills are not inexpensive, right?
Right.
So if I'm going to have an event for 300 people with tax and gratuities and service charges, it has to be paid for. So my first event was a wake-up call to me that, oh, this is going to take some dollars. So the resources was my first challenge. And I had to shatter some limits and decide, okay, I'm going to be tough and strong enough that I can make it to the second year. I didn't really think I could because of the hit that I got from the first year of the expense, right? And I'm
Right.
thinking, okay, can I do this again? But you know what I did, Mark? You know what I did? I decided to listen to what the spirit was telling me to just keep going. And I did. I jumped the next year without the sponsors again, not knowing who my title sponsor was going to be and how I was going to pay for it. Then we ended at the Crown Plaza right there in the downtown Detroit.
Yeah, I
That
remember.
was the next event, right? Well,
Mhm.
that cost me as well, and I ended up paying for that personally. The good news is I had a really good career to help establish the fact that I could afford it. And so I did. Well, after 2 years, I think businesses started to see, hey, we like the execution. We like what it's about. Maybe we'll give her a sponsorship. So I got one or two sponsors the third year. And the third year, we ended up at the Henry, where you came.
Right.
And that was huge. That was a huge,
That was
remember
an
that?
incredible night. That was the Henry, first of all, was a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
There was a sense of class, professionalism, and elegance that evening. And I was fortunate enough to announce a couple of the winners, I believe, and amongst others, I think Glenda Lewis got
Yep, yep,
acknowledged.
yep.
I'm sorry, Diana Lewis,
Diana,
the legendary
she was
Diana
doing
Lewis got acknowledged that week, that particular event. And for those of you tuning in from across the country, the legendary Detroit broadcaster, awesome lady, her daughter has continued the legacy in the news business here in Detroit. And that was just an incredible event. I love how the people came together. It was a diverse group of people
Oh,
as
absolutely.
well. And I think that's the beauty of the events that you're doing is you bring people from across the country into a location, and it's just always with the utmost class. Everything is first class
Thank
that
you.
you do. And I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Well, my intent was to show that it really wasn't about separation. It's about inclusion. I'm that
Yeah.
person that comes from the diversity footprint of the inclusion. So the women I acknowledge are women from all ethnic backgrounds, from all types of disciplines, to showcase that there are some commonalities in what we experience as women. We're
Yes, sir.
still trying to advance. Now, don't get me wrong, women of color, for sure, I'm one of those. And I understand that my walk is different than maybe someone else that may not be a woman of color. But in the end, when I've sat in boardrooms where I've sat in C-suites, I know what women deal with, period, right? And so this really is about lifting the woman, celebrating the woman, acknowledging the woman, and their business savvy game changer attributes of iconic presence and power. And those are the three attributes that we come after for the women. Who's got the iconic mark on the industry? Diana Lewis, Florine Mark did. Glenda Lewis. And then you have women that are working in automotive and women that are working in the school system, women that are on the Detroit City Council. The Governor Gretchen Whitmer has accepted our award in the past. We have gone from congresswomen to women like myself that had an extraordinary career in automotive, but maybe the people around the world don't know who I am. And I'm not trying to be known, but I have done pretty decent. So this whole idea about mastering your career is that we are still mastering, and that their place that women are trying to get, that North Star, there's always someone that you can look at and say, okay, if they can get there, I can, but I still have to have resilience to do that. So my walk into this year 10, I am resilient, is about, I can't believe it's 10 years and what we had to go through. I've gone to cities where people have said, well, who are you? And I've asked for the city council to attend and they don't attend because they don't know who I am. And then we get the tickets out and get the announcement out in those marketplaces, and then it's sold out. And you kind of wonder, well, why is it sold out? Because somehow, somehow the message gets to people like,
You've got traction. You've got traction. I think we have a couple minutes remaining.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is you're giving out a legendary actress, person, a major award. Talk briefly about who you're doing it to and why.
Yeah. And I also get a chill over that because I was a young girl when I watched her, and she probably was somewhat younger, maybe by 5 years or so younger than me at the time. But we always looked for people that look like us. Sometimes when you're on TV and you're growing up in that era of the 70s or 60s, we didn't have much of that, Mark. And so this particular actress is Holly Robinson Peete. Holly comes from the 21 Jump Street era, that she was a part of that show, and the show called Hanging with Mr. Cooper. She's also had her own talk show. She's an author. She's a philanthropist. And she has had a remarkable career in Hollywood, but yet she's done it through resilience. And I thought, if we're talking about I am resilient, she fits that picture because of her own story that she tells about her children or a child that has autism, and what she ended up doing in that space to ensure that she didn't have to change his world for the world. Okay. And I love that idea. So we're going to be having a conversation with her. I get to have a fireside chat with her on Thursday, where we're going to have the Legends Ball, which is our 10th year celebration of the legend of what we've done, but we're honoring legends like Holly. And then again, as we mentioned earlier, Diana Lewis, who was our 2017 honoree, will be there to present this award to her. So I'm excited because that's sold out as well. And
Awesome.
We're going to have gowns, balls. It's a ball. So I said to people, this is about walking the pink carpet of Career Mastered in your best of best gown, women, not cocktail. We're talking about formal affair,
Right.
with a formal dinner. And we have 313 Live, which is a Detroit band, 5-piece band that's going to be giving us entertainment. And then we're just going to have a party.
That's awesome. Well, I think I do have to wrap up, but I want to say this, awesome event. So proud of you for what you're doing with it. And by the way, for you Detroiters that are checking us out, her husband was Rodney Peete.
Yep.
And still is Rodney Peete, and was a quarterback. We rephrase that, is Rodney Peete, who was a quarterback, our starting quarterback for our beloved Detroit Lions.
Right here,
Lisa
Detroit.
Wicker, right here in Detroit. Before we go, real quick, is there a website? I know the events are sold out, but just the website if people go to the information.
If women want to follow, get connected to the magazine, get connected to the membership. We have a membership called Career Mastered, Women's Leadership Network. You can go to careermastered.com and join the membership, order the magazine, join us on Facebook, just follow us and stay connected. I often say that part of my talent, I'm not a singer, but God, like you, Mark, God has given us the ability to be master networkers and connectors. And so we connect people around the world.
Well, thank you. You are the absolute best. Congratulations. I look forward to being engaged to the event and participating. And we appreciate all that you're doing.
Can't wait to see you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having
all
me.
of you, absolutely, my pleasure. For all of you tuning in, thanks for joining me in the conference room with Marquez Lee. We should go out, make it a great day, make it a great week. We will check you out again in that conference room. Go out and have a great day, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
The Lee Group will be holding its 10th annual Small Business Workshop, May 15th, 8:30 a.m. at the Corner Ballpark, 1680 Michigan Avenue in Detroit. Hear from business leaders and other entrepreneurs discussing embracing change while moving forward. You don't want to miss this free event. For more information, go to leegroupinnovation.com and check Small Business Workshop.